Hey, Weekend, it's me coming to you, not live, but recorded a little bit later. Wasn't able to record a podcast with the entire elders because we were just having conversations and talking about things, how we can better lead, better guide, and also just having some time with each other to encourage one another. So I just wanted to kind of give you a brief recap about what we talked about, just kind of talk furthermore into the message. So here we go. First thing we talked about was obviously the main idea behind it is communication. And this is such an important aspect to any relationship, not just with your spouse, but with anyone you really talk to. At the very end of the message, I relayed to you that as a communicator, we are responsible for what we say, what we mean, and for what the other person understands. So we can backtrack that in a way. If they don't understand, it's because we probably didn't communicate what we needed to say and what we meant. Those two didn't match up. And so therefore it leaves them in limbo wondering, what in the world did you mean? Now, that's not the only responsibility. There is a responsibility on the party of the listener. The listener is required to, not required, I guess you might say, but is responsible for just simply listening. Sometimes we get so distracted with our phones or the kids or, any situation that's going on that we might find ourselves in a place where we begin to ask ourselves, are they really listening to me? And so that's the first thing is, are you listening? Just literally put down your phone. Listen to literally what is being said. And then the second thing would be to clarify what they meant by that. Surely, again, because the communicator, the talker, the speaker is saying what they mean, you should be able to very clearly clarify what they mean and then acknowledge simply like, hey, I understand what you're saying, or I could see how you got there, or I could see how that made you feel. I could see why you did that next thing or why you said that next response. And so a big part of that is just learning how to communicate with each other, is realizing it's a two-way street. It's not always just one person talking and the other person listening. No, the other person has feelings, needs, desires, hopes, dreams, and wishes as well. And so just leaning into those moments, it helps us get off the crazy cycle. And we talked about this crazy cycle. It's from Dr. Emerson Eggerichs, which I'm so honored to read his book and learn from that stuff. Comes from Ephesians chapter 5, big revelation from him in his ministry and walking with probably hundreds of thousands of couples and probably millions of people who have read his book. But the big thing that keeps us on the crazy cycle is our pride. And just as a reminder, pride is a sinful, excessive self-esteem that elevates oneself above God and others, and it'll eventually lead to arrogance, self-sufficiency, and rebellion. So my goal always is to communicate as clear as I can with you. We always say around Awaken, clear is kind. So if you're not clear, it's just generally unkind. And I think a lot of times in my marriage, how this works is lots of conversations. When my wife comes home, disconnecting from what I'm doing, getting up from my desk or wherever I might be, when I make it home, if I'm meeting with someone else, to come home and just spend time with her, to put down my phone, to give her undivided attention, because she deserves that, right? I always tell you that she's the most intriguing, interesting person in my life. And so I want to be able to not only impart and exchange information with her, but more than anything, I want her to walk away or in that conversation knowing that that she was listened to, that she was cared for. And so it is a two-way street, and probably at some time down the road, you probably push back against something that they said, right? They said, you could have done this better, could have said this better, and immediately, because our defense walls go up, we don't listen, we don't respond well, and we definitely don't take their advice. Just throw the flag on yourself. That's just a pride thing. And then finding out whether you really want to be right more than the other person. Like, again, the big thing we talked about is if one person wins and the other person loses, then the entire marriage loses. So obviously my heart and the heart of the elders is that your marriage would win, is that you would have more fluid, godly conversation with each other, because every word that you use matters. No wonder why the Bible says to keep your mouth shut first, to listen first. Everyone should be slow to speak, quick to listen, slow to anger. And really that rage thing is like anger leads to rage, and rage is a defiance against another person. Like, it's a disrespect. It's, I don't care how you feel about what I'm about to say or what I'm about to do. I really don't have any capacity to care for how this is going to impact you. That's what rage is. So it's a big thing to realize that over and over again we see, like in Proverbs 15:1, it says, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." So again, this is the same thing of fighting fire with fire. It just gets hotter, more uncomfortable. Someone's going to sweat. Someone's going to cry. Someone's going to break. Someone's going to say something that they shouldn't have said in the first place. So again, the reminder is like Ephesians 4:29. It says, "Don't let any unwholesome, like any part of it, unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is for building others up." So I'm going to pause right there and ask you, like, have you gone to encourage your spouse this week? Right, we've only 2 days out, 3 days out, for you to understand, like, what does it look like to be encouraged? What does it look like for me to receive encouragement, but also to dish it out? Because everyone likes to be patted on the back. Everyone likes to say, "Honey, that was like the best dinner ever. That was amazing." And that's a big gas tank to fill for a lot of people. Is they need a lot of that gas in there. They need a lot of encouragement. They need a lot of affirmation, but not in the sense of just to say yes to everything and everything was awesome and like you're living in this Lego movie mindset, everything is awesome. It's sometimes not, and that's okay. But I think being able to clearly communicate, "Hey, I appreciate you. I admire you. I love you. Here's the information that I have for you. Can you help me sort through these things?" Because at any time, Jesus is right? He's always right. But the golden rule is to treat others the way that you would want to be treated. So this weekend I asked you, can you just pause for a second in your conversations before you open your big mouth and ruin the moment or ruin the conversation or make the other person feel like they're attacked or and put up walls and be on the defensive? Can you just simply stop, maybe pause for about 10 seconds, just practical things, and ask yourself, how would I feel if this person, my spouse or my friend or my fiance or my girlfriend or boyfriend, responded back like this to me? What I'm about to say, and this takes some wisdom and humility, how would I receive it, right? How would it make me feel? What would I want to do? How would I experience those things? Because reckless words, like Scripture says, they're awful to us. And I think practical advice for all of us is simply just zip it. My mom always used to tell me, and as I'm sure your mom did, because I feel like all the moms are the same, if you have nothing good to say, don't say anything. And that's not in a sense of burying those feelings and burying those emotions and not giving a rip about bringing those up or thinking that the other person won't care. But it's rather a thing of, if you're not going to build in this relationship, you're going to break. And that hurts my heart the most is when Crystal and I have had that, is when we seek to hurt each other. It's pretty evident, just as anything else would be evident, right? Good and bad are quite evident in any situation. And so these verses in Proverbs chapter 18 help us to be reminded of people who don't have humility. They won't listen, literally won't listen, like they turn their back on you or just disconnect or don't make eye contact. They seek to break you instead of build you. They respond first instead of trying to understand. It's like they always have something to say, like, "Well, you do that too." Like this is an area where Scripture adamantly warns against. And in the conversation, in any conversation, is asking yourself, am I here to burden this person or am I here to bless them? And this takes a lot of self-evaluation, a lot of emotional intelligence to be able to look to and from and with that person. And if you're ever confused, here's a moment of clarity of communication that I can give you, is ask that person, does that make sense? Are you getting what I'm saying? If you ever feel like they're not connecting and your words aren't landing, just have the conversation. Just be honest and open with them because the last thing you want to do is continue down a path of miscommunication, of misunderstanding, to get to the end of the road and them go like, tell you something that you didn't say, that you didn't mean. So I would say little bursts of conversation are better than this whole long story. So I'm not coming after anybody, but usually ladies have a tendency to tell an entire story with 19 points. And I'll just tell you from a guy's perspective, we get lost. And so just chop it up for us a little bit. I'm not saying we're dumb, we're anything like that, but I'm saying little short segments go a long way because a long story is hard to follow. And so that follows into the whole thing of clear is kind. I brought up one of my favorite verses in all of Proverbs. This is Proverbs 18:17, and It says the first to state his case seems right until they're cross-examined. And I think this is just a big thing for all of us to understand, that when our spouse begins to ask us questions, we don't have to be in a place of defense. Like, you've got to ask yourself, is my spouse trying to hurt me, or are they trying to help me? Are they trying to leverage something against me, or are they actually trying to love me? So if you start with the perspective of my spouse is here to love me, you'll hear through different ears about how they're asking things. And this is where we obviously have to trust in each other, to have mutual respect for each other in these moments. But I warned against people who, we call them self-preservationists, I guess you might say, who go and tell one part of the story to someone else, and then person B gets another side of the story that they didn't tell person A about, and then person C gets a whole different version. There is some truth, but it's not the whole truth, right? A, B, and C have some form of the truth, but it's not the entire truth. These people are the ones that might drive you and I up a wall. And so how that applies inside of our marriages is to just simply tell the truth about everything, right? Let's just be honest. Married people share a lot of things. They share their house, their home, their food, their cars, their groceries, and their bodies with each other. And so I think this is a big thing of, like, when we have conversations about telling our side of the story, let's throw the flag on ourselves. Let's have some humility in our hearts. If we did something wrong, to openly admit it, to say it as it is, because again, we're listening through the ears of them having love for us. But also in the other side of it is, when we're listening to a story from our spouse, is to just kind of do a cross-examine. Why? Because it helps nurture sanctification inside of our spouse. Because we don't want spouses that lie. We don't want spouses that aren't humble. We don't want spouses that only tell half-truths, right? We want a spouse who can be fully open and present and living with their whole heart for us and for the situation. And so just leaning into these conversations with you is something that we want to continue to do. Again, clear is kind, and these are all just, Proverbs 18 is just a great reminder. I'd encourage you to read it. I'd encourage you to read it over and over and over again. Maybe memorize some of it so that you can live by these things. And I know a lot of Proverbs was written as obviously like little precise shots, like we're going to address this, and they kind of seemingly seem disconnected. But the book of Proverbs talks a lot about the person who is a fool. And that's the last thing that we would want for you and your marriages is for you to be a fool in it, or to you be foolish in how you listen and how you speak and how you communicate. So I hope that somewhere down the line that you've heard something that's challenged you, something that you can practically put into practice. Is that the thing? And so somewhere down the road, I hope that you were convicted, that you were convinced or challenged that something had to change. And again, we only start with us first, because we got to take the log out of our own eye before we take the speck out of someone else's. And so a final thought for you guys is just to communicate this week so clearly that you can't be misunderstood. Plenty of us have opinions, but it doesn't mean that we're right. And so that would be a little bit of my challenge to you. But again, I'd encourage you, go through those questions that I have for you. My wife and I have been recently implementing these little talk cards. There's different topics, probably like 6 different topics with about 30 different questions inside of them. We'll pull one out and have that conversation as we lie in bed. And it's just really about listening, like, wow, I didn't know that you felt that way. Or, wow, that's awesome. That's exactly what I thought. Clearing assumptions is a big thing for us and really any relationship. If you feel a certain way, you should check it with someone. Because that's the beauty of how Christ treated us. He didn't leave us to guessing. He didn't leave us to confusion. He didn't leave us to a place of uncertainty. Even in salvation, the biggest issue, he didn't say, well, you might get there this way. No. He says, if anyone wants to be my disciple, right, they got to deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. And what that looks like is a life full of faith in who Christ is and what he's done, that he is the sole person and thing and event that gets us into heaven. And so I feel like he just made that really clear to us. We don't have to question and wonder. And out of that mutual respect and love for Christ, we begin doing those things that bring clarity to our relationship. It's real super simple. He says, if you love me, you keep my commandments. And I would say for spouses, if you love me, if you love them, talk to them. Open your heart, open your mind, open those conversations, and see what God will do with you this week. If you have any questions or anything, or any way we can help, please let us know. Our first question is probably going to be, how did you communicate, or what did you communicate to your spouse? I think that would be a fantastic exercise for all of us. But again, the communication homework you can find totally on the Awaken app. There's 5 different questions there. So I hope that you'll be able to find it. We'll be back next week with everyone at the table. I say everyone. I don't know who's going to be here. The elders and someone will be here, and we'll be able to talk these things through. Hey, I hope you have a great week of worship. Hope to see you on Sunday as we continue on in our sermon series, Marriage Works. Remember, because marriage works because God designed it, and everyone is committed to their marriage and to helping others grow in theirs. So definitely see a lot of season and fruit. Definitely see a season of growth and fruit to come. But let's stay active and push the boundaries, push the envelope, whatever metaphor you want to use. We are with you guys, and I hope you have a great week of worship.